A lot of people seemed to give this first Masters of the Universe trailer a pass despite this shot. Adam is seen here working in what appears to be a soulless corporate office job that he doesn't like, and his nameplate says he, him. And a lot of people thought, that's just a joke. It's not meant to be woke. It's a commentary on the woke stuff, and it's a clever bit of wordplay because, you know, he, him, he-man, right? Adam is he-man. And I thought that interpretation was perhaps a little too presumptuous at this point. I mean, after everything we've seen from Hollywood in recent years, would it really surprise you? I wouldn't be giving this the benefit of the doubt off the bat. Do you know what I mean? But here's the thing, though. There's other signs that concern me. This article is from Empire Online from February 6th. Skeletor is the embodiment of toxic masculinity in Masters of the Universe, says Travis Knight. Oh dear, not again. Not this toxic masculinity talk again, please. Has this theme not been exhausted enough in Hollywood in recent years at this stage? So for those of you who don't know, Travis Knight is the director of the movie. It says, from the moment he hit toy shelves, Skeletor proved an instant classic villain. Just as He-Man is a cartoonish extreme of heroism, look at those massive muscles, his nemesis Skeletor is a cartoonish extreme of evil, a cackling skull in a big purple hood. Enough said. And in his Masters of the Universe movie, director Travis Knight is playing it straight. His Skeletor is a faithful recreation of the original character right down to the eye sockets. And this is a quote. Skeletor was a really interesting villain, Knight tells Empire, of the original cartoon incarnation. He looked cool, he was scary, he was funny, he was insecure, and then of course he had this distinctive voice, all of which offered plenty for Jared Leto to work from as the performer anchoring the role in Knight's Masters of the Universe. I wanted someone to craft their own version of that, the director explains. Jared approached us because he loves Skeletor and has his own history with the character. He wanted to swing for the fences, and ultimately we landed on something that I'm really happy with. Skeletor is kind of the embodiment of toxic masculinity. Now, I could dismiss this as just the director's personal interpretation of the character, and it may not have any bearing or impact on the story. But then I saw this from this article, thatparkplace.com. Masters of the Universe actress links Teela to toxic masculinity as film's messaging comes into focus yet again. There's that term, toxic masculinity. I'm detecting a theme here. The upcoming Masters of the Universe film is once again finding itself pulled into a familiar cultural conversation, this time following new comments from Teela actress Camila Mendes that tie her character directly to themes of toxic masculinity. The remarks add to a growing pattern of messaging surrounding the project, which has already sparked debate among fans after similar comments from director Travis Knight earlier this year. Again, that's in reference to the quote from the director I just read. So people are noticing a few comments like this, references to toxic masculinity in a film about He-Man, who's about as masculine as you can get in terms of an action hero. Obviously, it should go without saying that the idea of toxic masculinity is a fallacy, but no doubt you already know that, dear viewer. Camila Mendes describes Teela through toxic masculinity. In a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly, Mendes outlined her interpretation of Teela, focusing heavily on the character's upbringing and emotional defenses. Here's the full quote. It's hard to talk about Teela without talking about her relationship to her father, because I feel like so much of who she is has to do with how she was, I guess, let down as a kid. Again, this focusing on childhood trauma, which is very common in Hollywood movies these days, and sure, it has its place in some stories, but it's just becoming a trope that we're seeing way too often. way too often, and I don't think it has any place in a movie like this. And to me, this kind of character story arc about past trauma, it's been done so often that it feels tired and it feels lazy. So anyway, back to the quote. She says, "And I feel like that really built this outer wall around her that's sort of like shielding this inner sensitivity. She's affected by toxic masculinity just as much as the men in the film." What? Not only is she apparently affected by toxic masculinity, but the men in the film are affected by it as well? I mean, what could that mean? I mean, usually the term toxic masculinity is a disparaging description of what are usually just conventional depictions of masculinity within the context of traditional gender roles. If the men in the film are affected by this as well, my suspicion is that it might mean that some of the male characters are written to feel as though masculine traits and behavioral expectations are being foisted upon them in some oppressive manner. I could be wrong. We'll see. Let's just hope nobody decries the patriarchy or something. Anyway, it says, "And I think she's sort of adopted masculinity to protect herself in this very masculine world. It's how she survives. She's in survival mode and has been for a very long time." Now, later in the article, it says, "For many, phrases like toxic masculinity aren't neutral descriptors. They're widely seen as progressive coded language used to frame male behavior in a negative light." Exactly. Once that terminology enters the conversation, it stops being just about character development and starts feeling like a broader ideological statement, pulling the film directly into culture war territory. Exactly, and this is the growing concern. Of course, it is possible that these remarks about toxic masculinity are merely the opinions and subjective interpretations of Mendes and Knight, and there may not be any progressive messaging in the film at all. The film could be entirely ideologically neutral, and hopefully it is. Either way, audiences are very sensitive to any progressive sounding language like this in discussions of new movies. They don't want this kind of politics in their films. Terms like toxic masculinity just set off alarm bells for some people. In conclusion, let's hope we're going to get He-Man and not Soy Man, please. So with all of this talk of toxic masculinity in the movie, perhaps this he-him pronouns nameplate wasn't actually meant as a joke. I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments below. Both articles are linked below in the description box for you to check out. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Computing Forever. Hit that notification bell to be notified of future updates. Hit the like button, share the video out there. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.